Well, talking for myself personally, like I learnt about giving and community and volunteering from my parents. And I think that's such a common way that people are learning. So it's really learning through demonstrating your values in action and starting young and being able to realize that when you've got a bit of pocket money, it might not feel like very much, but it's about creating a habit.
How does one select a charity that aligns with a family's value, purpose, culture, ethos, with an abundance of worthy causes out there, with several charities that are in need, and with, frankly, not enough time to do the due diligence? Part of the issue of being engaged with charity is one of not sure how to actually do it, how to actually make the connection. And so in trying to connect the It's Never About Money podcast with a worthy charity, I stumbled across Seedling, a charity matchmaking service that is pioneered and delivered by Jess Bowman and Kylie Wallace. In this episode, we map out how to determine a suitable charity for a family at any level. Is it important just to be providing financial resources, or how important is personal exertion and the giving of time in helping charity? Kylie and Jess step out the due diligence process that they undertake to determine the most effective charities to present to the families that they offer this service to. I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, welcome to the It's Never About Money community. Really excited to have the dynamic duo, Jessica Bowman and Kylie Wallace from Seedling. Seedling is a matchmaking service. So I'll leave that in the ether for the moment and let Kylie and Jessica explain a little bit about, what Seedling does. Hi, guys.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe. Lovely to see you, and thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, no, you're most welcome. I'm very excited about it, and just because matchmaking service is a challenging one to describe. With it needs a little bit of context, I think. So perhaps you can start with letting us know a little bit about what Seedling actually is.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. So I guess really the problem that we're trying to address in the space is that there are over 57,000 charities for Australians to be able to choose from. And people are just really overwhelmed with choice. So Seedling Giving is a personalised, one-on-one charity matching service where we get to know about people's passions and their values and their life experiences. And we go out and find and vet high-performing charities for both individuals and corporates to be able to consider supporting. So people can feel like they can give and be really confident about their giving and give as generously as they can and they'd like to as well.
Mm-hmm. And so, on the theme of matchmaking, you guys are a great partnership, and I just wanted to know a little bit about how you guys connected and how you thought about Seedling and how you kind of created the idea of Seedling. And Jess, I know that you have a bit of a different background as well, so perhaps you can talk to that.
Yeah, so I've been doing charity analysis since 2015. I first came across this problem of how to find a good charity in Australia. Long before then, I've always been interested in charities, and I had a very bad experience when I was 19. And so since then, I've really just been trying to understand and get professional experience in analysing organisations to how you can create the greatest good. So I spent a long time in government and in consulting firms trying to identify how public bodies can spend money effectively. But then in 2015, I was like, still nobody was really addressing this problem of trying to find high quality charities. So I set up a website called The Good Cause Co, and I systematically evaluated Australia's largest charities and presented those recommendations for free online. I did that for a while, but then shut it down because the business model just didn't really work. And then Kylie knocked on my door literally a couple of months later saying, hey, I've got this great idea. And it was just such a beautiful opportunity because her skills are so complementary to mine. And I knew that I didn't have the sales and the fundraising and all of that skill set that was necessary to take this concept to really make it fly. So it was just a match made in heaven, really. She was what I was dreaming about the whole time I was doing my analysis. So I need someone to do
amazing.
the marketing. I don't know how to do it. And yeah, so it's just great.
And Kylie, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think Jess and I are very much a yin and yang duo. And it was really serendipitous. Like when I came across Jess's website, I loved the premise of what it was all about. And for me, it was more not the quite right product market fit. I've been in the not-for-profit and corporate social responsibility space for the last 12 years. And I know when people are wanting to be able to give to charity, they want it to be easy. They shouldn't feel like, oh, well, if I want to donate, it's actually really hard and it takes weeks and sometimes months to find that right connection. So really, it was about leveraging the last 6 years of all of the amazing work Jess was doing and all of her wonderful learnings and evolving it into this new platform, Seedling Giving, where all of now, rather than what Jess was trying to do, which was empower people with the knowledge and information around how to spot high-performing charities to do it themselves, that now we do it for people, and all of that is part of our back end.
So why the passion in this space? What drives you to get up in the morning and do what you do? It's not an easy venture to start a business, just at all. Let alone something quite unique in the way that you've kind of created it.
So I would say for me, working in the social space pretty much my whole life, I get no greater joy and pleasure than giving other people the opportunity to feel as good as I feel every day. And as all of us know, and I'm sure many people listening along at home who have given to charity before know it feels so good. And it brings so much purpose and meaning into our lives. And what we're really trying to do with Seedling is allow everybody to be able to feel that and find and connect with amazing causes that they can really give to with their whole heart. And that's why I love doing what I'm doing, and also being able to connect people with really high performing charities so they know that their hard-earned money is making a really big impact as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what about you, Jess?
For me, it's just been at the heart of my life since I was my whole life. I've always felt very privileged. Like I've had a extraordinary childhood, every opportunity has been afforded to me, and I've always felt very, very compelled to give back. And I did receive an inheritance when I turned 18, and I wanted to make sure that went to the best possible place. So I went out and I did some volunteering, and I worked in an orphanage, and from that moment on, I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going to put all of my time, attention, money. I'm going to support these kids. But then as time went by, I found out that the actual operations of that organisation weren't good at all. The whole thing was corrupt. The whole industry was corrupt. And from that moment on, I knew that this feeling that I had of wanting to give back and making sure that actually made a good, valuable difference in the world was a lot harder than it seemed on the face of it. And there was no one really out there providing advice on how to do this. And, in the media, we see it all the time, like stories of corrupt managers within charities. We hear stories of how money's being wasted within charities. We hear all these stories about, how it can go wrong. But then there's no one actually directing people on how to do it well, because the truth is the vast majority of organisations are fantastic, and there are some there that are just exceptional and they're doing such good work, but there's just no way to differentiate between those that are exceptional from those that are poor. And it's just a So that's my passion. That's the problem that I have been banging away at for so long. Because if you give well and give to great organizations, it's really life-changing, and it can bring a really strong sense of purpose to your own existence. And so, yeah, that's it. It's like really trying to simplify that and just give people the assurance, and myself as well, the assurance that you are actually genuinely making this world a better place and not perpetuating any problems.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard enough for people. You've heard the old narratives around, the best form of charity starts at home and things of that nature. But when you've got on top of that sort of narrative, you've also got, if I give away this dollar, I'm not really sure about how effective it is, and whether or not it will be squandered, or whether or not it will make an impact. With that sort of doubt and uncertainty, and then the amount of charities that are just simply out there. It must be a super challenge for those families out there that might think, oh yeah, this sounds like a good idea, but how on earth do I get started?
Yeah, I would say that is definitely shown when we look at the data as well. On average, Australians are only giving away 0.25% of their annual income to charity. So not even 1%. And we believe that's not because people aren't seeing these problems in the world or because they don't want to give. They certainly do. But you have hit the nail on the head. It's really that people are overwhelmed with knowing where to start and who to trust, and that real end-to-end process, especially when you're talking about giving away large sums of money. The larger the amount of money, the more responsibility that comes with being able to place that money in the hands of really good organizations who are going to create great impact with that money as well. So that adds another layer of complexity, and there isn't simple ways for people to be able to find that right information, and call on experts to really sort of hold people's hand and really guide them through that end-to-end journey so they can give with confidence.
In your experience, do you think what are the type of things that motivates people to give? Why do people give? What do you think?
Um, I think it's an overwhelming sense of abundance. So there's two. There's a sense of abundance. So people give or want to give when they come into money, when they have more than they need, and they can see that there are others that don't have what they need. People give when there are crises, so where there's like very sort of strong emotional appeal because something unexpected has happened, and they can put themselves in the shoes of people that are in that scenario, and they know that if they were in that scenario, they would need help. But also a lot of people just, it's within them. And for a lot of us, it is within us. We know that we have the responsibility and the capability and the means to give back. And that's just part of our existence. So it's not like it's not it's, you can try and rationalize it, but it's just part of our core values. And that's, I think, a strong driver for a lot of people.
And talking about the quantum of wealth and the types of individuals or entities that might give, I imagine business owners and family business itself would be a large contributor to the philanthropy space. Do you think because, again, the quantum of giving that might be done at a business level, that the due diligence and making sure that the charities are right for the organisation is even more paramount, and makes it even more difficult, I suppose, for some of these businesses to make, and business/families make these decisions?
Definitely. I think specifically around business, another layer is around that risk as well. When businesses are thinking about partnering with charities, especially when they're doing that publicly, whether that's be through their website or collaborating with events and really showcasing that partnership to their wider stakeholders and community, there is a risk that obviously comes with that. So that's why it is really important when corporates are thinking about collaborating with charities, setting up corporate social responsibility strategies, and giving money away, that they're doing that due diligence around which charities they're partnering with and making sure that those organizations are high performing and going to be using their money really effectively. So I think that is really an important step in the process, and really around building genuine relationships with the charities. I think I see sometimes businesses who use CSR as a way to be able to drive more sales or build their brand. There's now, because people have seen that happening, people have a real aversion to it, and it almost can do the opposite. So being able to build that genuine relationship where you're really looking to just do good rather than being able to utilize that charity to drive your business goals, I think is something that's also really important, and finding those mutually beneficial sort of opportunities with the charity and values alignment is really important as well.
So, Kylie, what I'm hearing is that it's not, this is not a marketing or PR exercise. Consumers and staff and stakeholders can smell it a mile out, where it's just there for purely commercial purposes for the business. It needs to have authenticity and genuineness associated with it, and part of that might be actually, I imagine, having not only the financial donations that are provided to this particular charity, but also the actual provision of personal exertion by staff, getting out there on the ground and actually seeing what it's all about. It's not just, I suppose, the financial effectiveness of your dollar, but it's also the motivation, the meaning, the resonance with the charity. So how do you guys actually ensure that there is a really good fit from the organisation, the business, and the family with the actual charity? How do you elicit that real burning desire to want to work with a charity?
So there are a number of things that we look at in terms of values alignment. So obviously the vast majority of companies will have a mission statement or some sort of vision. Similarly, charities will have a mission statement and a vision. So there may be some sort of overlap there. But really it comes down to people. So who are the people that are running the business, and who are the people that are running the charity? What does their board look like? What does their executive look like? And are they people of similar mindsets? So you can see some charities will be quite corporate. There'll be some charities that are quite like community minded. There'll be some charities that are quite government type oriented. They all have quite a flavour to them. So that's one of the there are some that are really artistic. We just had a client that we were working with who was in like the art space. So when I was looking for charities, I was looking at the boards, and whenever I found charities that had some sort of artsy flavour, I knew that they would align with her. So that's the biggest key, I think, to values alignment, is making sure that the people have similar values to the charity that they're matched with.
And to add to that, another thing that we do with our larger clients is we give the charities the opportunity to share directly with the potential donor about the work that they do. Because sometimes it's also about that personality click and being able to hear directly from the founder or the CEO, see their passion, and that just adds another layer of really being able to understand which organization feels like the right fit. For us, we take from that universe of 57,000, we bring it down to 3 high-performing opportunities for people to consider supporting. And then that allows people to hear directly from the charities and feel that real values alignment, being able to actually see and hear from those leaders within the organization about the work that they're doing and the kind of impact that the donation would be able to have within the organization.
So Kylie, we've got to the point of doing our due diligence on the relevant charities, having conversations with the family slash the business around what will bring about the most meaning, what is the most authentic sort of area of concern for them, and you're bringing them together. So I know, Kylie, that you used to run corporate responsibility for Priceline. What are the sort of tangible and not so seen and tangible benefits of incorporating giving into the business environment? What happens?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think nowadays in corporates, and that goes for small, medium, large businesses, if you want to attract the best young talent in the country, your business needs to be able to understand and demonstrate with authenticity how they're helping the community and how that business is actually giving back. Because what we're seeing is this shift from people saying, oh, I want to go and work at the Big Four because that's got the name associated with it, to people going, actually, no, I want to be able to go and work for a business that's giving back and is making the world a bit of a better place. So if you want your business to be able to attract that cream of the crop, it has to be core to what you do. And so the benefits are around that talent, not only getting them in the door, but keeping them engaged and being able to see and understand that this business isn't just about, for example, in Priceline situation, it wasn't just about selling cosmetics or helping people's health. It was about what we were doing with 5 amazing causes within the Australian community that were focused around women and women's health. We had great opportunities for our store staff, to our warehouse staff, to our head office staff to be able to actively get involved. They were on that journey with us about learning about the organisations, being able to volunteer with those organisations, and then really being able to understand where the donation was going and the kind of impact that it was having, and taking people on that journey was so important, and being able to bring so much meaning into their lives when you might feel like when you're working on the shop floor at Priceline, you don't really feel that every day. But when they're understanding the great work that we were doing through the Sisterhood Foundation, it really gave them more drive to do what they were doing and really promote the work around the foundation and the way that we were giving back.
And I suppose the workplace ever more now, it has really become integrated into the way that we live our lives. It's not just work is work and then I'll do the rest of the stuff outside of work in terms of my giving. If you can actually incorporate giving into the workplace, it's a huge value add, and potentially for those that may not have done it on their own as a result of just not knowing how to, having that leadership from the the management and the ownership of a business, I think is pretty amazing.
And I would say, to add to that, like we've seen with this new generation, the young generation of people coming through, that's exactly right. They're wanting to be able to give back through their workplace. They are wanting to be able to change the world, but they're not necessarily really wanting to change the way that they live. So what we're looking at now is how you can integrate giving and philanthropy in all of these touch points across your everyday life, through your workplace, through the way that you shop and you spend. This rise in social enterprises, groups like Thank You and Who Gives a Crap. Like, we've been able to see now that people can integrate that rather than it being one big event, which was probably more what our parents did when we had things like World Vision Child Sponsorship, where you would sign up once and then you would make one big gift at tax time. Now people are thinking about all of these little sort of more micro gifts, especially the younger people, the micro gifts that might end up being 10 or 20 things over the course of a month, and about that consumer choice and power that you can have to be able to make an impact through your everyday choices in your life.
Sure. And people aren't silly. We can engage them into the ideas of helping certain causes, but if there isn't a clear example of it actually making a difference, then there is no point in a way. I think this kind of, it's almost delusional. So coming to Jess, around the due diligence piece, it is super, super important. And I'm sure that the, business owners that you would work with would be super focused on seeing what tangibly, how they can tangibly make a difference. So could you talk to us around the due diligence process, Jess?
So analysing a charity is complex. It's like analysing a stock, right? You need to look at a number of different elements to get an overall picture for the overall likelihood that a charity will deliver on its mission. And so that's kind of what we're looking at the start. Each charity will set out to deliver a certain goal. Some are very explicit about that goal, some aren't. And the more vague and ambiguous a charity is, the harder it is to really understand their impact. And that's kind of that's what it all comes down to in terms of our analysis, is giving donors a really good sense of the likelihood that the charity will do what they say they are going to do and deliver that on that impact. So we look at things like their financial integrity to see if they're bringing in enough funds to do the kind of work that they say that they're going to do, that there's enough diversity in their income streams so that they're not going to fall over tomorrow. We look at their board, like I mentioned before, to see that they have the relevant skills and experience to actually be able to manage an organisation of whatever size it is, it's doing whatever it is, and that they have the vision and the leadership to set a really clear direction, and they're actually monitoring the performance of the organisation. So they have kind of a vested interest, and they have ways of actually monitoring their performance. And then the last thing we look at is the actual performance. So does the charity have any systems for evaluation in place? Because unless they're actually evaluating their programs, we have no idea whether or not they're doing what they're doing or what they say they're doing. And then you can look at the various levels of quality of evaluation. So is it a self-evaluation, or do they have a third party come in? The vast majority of charities don't have solid systems for monitoring and evaluation in place. And this was something that really surprised me when I first started analysing charities. I put together this comprehensive rubric of where I expected charities should be, and there was like maybe one or two that met that standard. So I had to kind of readjust my expectation to meet charities where they're at. And that's kind of what Seedling's trying to do as well, is really lift the standard and lift the expectations of what we expect from charities, and just get that systems for monitoring and evaluation in place, and really encourage charities to have strong strategies that they can then report their performance against. But that's what,
I imagine, Jess, that you need to cast the web quite broadly to capture these hidden gems that, we've talked about this before offline, that, there's some charities that are actually amazing, but they're kind of out of sight. How do you find them? There must be a big challenge.
So we go through a filtering process, really. So with each client, we'll start off identifying what their specific goals and objectives are, and if they've got any constraints to the types of charities that they want to give to. For example, they may want to just stay local, or they may want to focus on one specific cause. So we filter the database of Australian charities to meet those specific objectives. And then we usually end up with kind of about 25 that are broadly aligned. And then from each of those, you look at them one by one to see whether or not there are any red flags or major risks. You eliminate those, and then there's usually about 5 or 6 that are a pretty good fit. And at that point, you undertake a performance assessment. So look at the extent to which they've got a strong strategy, the extent to which they're reporting against any KPIs in that strategy, financial integrity, the governance systems that they have in place. So that's how you filter it down. We've been doing this for a very long time, so the
Yeah, no,
systems down pat.
That's quite obvious. I mean, obviously, one of the things that, as a financial advisor on the personal financial side for business owners are time poor. They want to do these things, but as you've just kind of clearly articulated, there is a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that, you know, you're not just giving money away and not non-effectively, you know. So I think that's what really kind of was super interesting to me when I found out about you guys, and I connected with Kylie, and I think that's what's really kind of maybe missing a little bit in the marketplace, and I think it's a really valuable service that you guys provide. With respect to, you know, the values that you elicit in your conversation with families, what sort of questions are you asking, and how are you kind of eliciting, you know, their needs to give?
So what we're really trying to do in this process is really get to the heart of what makes someone tick and what they can be really passionate about. Sometimes some people know exactly what it is, and other people actually just need to take the time to stop and pause and go, what actually do I really care about? What issues anger me or frustrate me, or what things really matter to us as a family or a business? And a lot of the time, as you say, we're time poor, we're busy, the world feels like it's spinning faster and faster, is that I believe everybody knows that deep down, but not many people actually take the time to have those questions asked of them and to really refine that and define what that is. So one of the questions that we ask is things like, if there was one thing in the world that you could change, what would it be?
Yeah, good question.
And then we also start to ask other questions, for example, about trying to help us with that filtering exercise is, are you more inspired by new and innovative or tried and tested? Or maybe somewhere in the middle. Like, where do you feel like you might sit on that spectrum? And that really helps us to understand, are they looking for one of these really amazing small grassroots charities where they feel like their money can make a great impact? Or are they more risk adverse and they're really wanting to put their money in a safe place that will continue to do really great work, but they're sort of being able to just sort of refine what they're doing? We also ask other questions around things like, are you more inspired by breadth or depth? In terms of the amount of people that you want to reach, is it more the people in crisis and trying to reach lots of people, or is it more around systems change? So sometimes people need to take that time to really think about their response. And that's what we do either through a questionnaire or a one-on-one interview where we're meeting with families and businesses and asking questions like this.
That's amazing. So there's almost as much due diligence as, well, I don't even know what the percentage would be or the focus would be, but there's a lot of due diligence that goes on in that, on the family side, to work out what they want. And then there's a huge amount of due diligence, obviously, on the charity side as well. That makes a lot of sense. I also think what makes a lot of sense is this idea that families like to, many families see the value of passing on this culture of giving to the next gen. And certainly what we're seeing a lot more of is the next generation, the younger generations are more inclined to giving. And maybe that's because, and you can maybe talk to this a little bit more, we've lived in the land of milk and honey for a long time now. And so coming back to your original points around this feeling of abundance and wanting to do something different is even ever more present. So could you talk to us, Kylie or Jess, either, around that sort of topic?
I think at the moment there's so many crises that we're bombarded with, particularly over the last few years. Just every couple of months there's some really, really urgent campaign and need for assistance. And I think for a lot of people, it's now just become extremely overwhelming. And there's a campaign, there's a crisis, there's call for help, people help, but then before they have the chance to really understand what their money was used for, there's another campaign and call for help and a crisis on the doorstep. And this is really, it makes it very difficult for anyone that does want to give back or that has like a heart for giving, because you can't really be intentional. You're in this short-term cycle of addressing these really urgent needs. So what we always suggest is people step back away from that, like just try and filter out all of the news and focus on what's really important to you, because one day what's important to you will become the crisis, and you don't want to be the person that's like the short-term response, not really knowing which organization is doing the best. You want to be the person out the front saying, hey, I've been interested in this area for 10 years. I know that is the organization that you should be giving to, because I've worked for them and I've given to them. I know they're good. I know they do what they're good at what they do. So it's just this appreciation that everyone has a certain niche or cause area that is important to them. And one day that will be in the news. And this, like I see, I've been looking at this for so long, like I see the patterns. With Syria, for example, you've got Syrian communities in Australia that have been talking about this for a long time. So they're the ones that know what's going on. With all different environmental issues, with different weather issues, there have been charities that have been working on these for 20, 30 years, and it's only now that it's become, it really feels like a crisis because of the news cycle. So I always encourage people, just follow your heart, like what is really important to you. And just because it's not in the news doesn't mean that it's not an important issue, because it is an important issue. And that organisation or that cause actually needs you to back it from now, like from day dot.
That makes a lot of sense, Jess. I kind of think about this idea of empathy, burnout, as well. There's just, and I didn't think about this before you commented around it, but this, social media and the constant, I think it's been a good thing, bringing up the issues of the world to our attention, but it's also very hard to work out exactly how you can help everyone. And I think sometimes it ends up being that you just go, put your hands up and you go, well, I'm just not going to do anything. And I think you're very right. Taking a step back, looking at it from a more macro point of view and picking something that you really feel like you can make a change in and sticking with it sounds reasonable. Kylie, I'm thinking about around the topic of the next gen and passing on that culture of giving. What are the models that work? Do you see families doing this regularly? How does it impact?
Well, talking for myself personally, like I learned about giving and community and volunteering from my parents, and I think that's such a common way that people are learning. So it's really learning through demonstrating your values in action, and starting young and being able to realize that when you got a bit of pocket money, it might not feel like very much, but it's about creating a habit. And myself personally started those habits really young. And, when I got my first job, that's when I started giving to World Vision and a sponsor child, because I saw my dad doing that and my mum doing that. And then as you get older, you're giving, then you sort of get to understand how that works, and your giving becomes more sophisticated. You then start going, okay, is this an area that I'm really passionate about, or is it just because I fell into that? What other things am I really passionate about? And then you can kind of grow and build from there. So in terms of around next gen, a couple of really beautiful things that we've seen working with clients as part of Seedling Giving has been things like being able to bring families together, especially with younger, like let's say teenagers, sometimes it's hard to get them to open up and talk about things that they care about or are passionate about. It can feel a bit awkward. I know it was, at least for me, when we would talk about things like this as a family. But being able to talk about it in relation to giving, it creates a really sort of open and safe space for people to open up about that. So it's actually an amazing tool to actually bring families together. And we've seen that through a couple of our clients who have family foundations, being able to involve them in the process, actually understand and learn more about their kids as well has been a really beautiful part of it, and bringing families even closer together, because when we're talking about things like structuring investments and where the money is going and sort of the numbers and cents, it can feel a bit dry. But especially for the next gens, they want to talk about things that really matter, and they want to be able to be heard about things that are really worrying them about the future, or that upset them or make them angry. So an opportunity for them to be able to share about that and hear and be heard, and for their opinion to be valued, and then to be able to find ways to create a great impact in that space has so many incredible benefits. So being able to use giving as a tool and a way to be able to do that has been a really great blessing, and something that we've been able to share with lots of families and have really enjoyed being able to offer that to people as well.
And as you know, the themes of the podcast, it's never about money. And one of the things that I'm pretty clear on, that after having conversations with many different people in this philanthropy giving space, is that the giving is something that's accessible. It's not that you have to have a family foundation. I mean, yes, there's value for family foundations where you have the capability financially to have one, but giving can start quite humbly, but can be very powerful as well. And so I just wanted to address that as an issue, because the idea that charity starts at home and I don't have the financial resources to be able to assist and all of that. I don't think it necessarily rings true, because you're missing out on all this value, and it doesn't mean you need to, struggle more financially by helping or assisting in some way, shape, or form. Could we talk around that? Because I think that's a super important message.
I think one of the
go for it, Jess.
I think one of the biggest things, one of the greatest personal benefits to giving is it helps you experience gratitude. Because if you're doing it with intention and you're really thinking about the recipients of your donation, you're thinking about their circumstances in relation to your own circumstances, and it just and when you're forced into that mindset, there's no other consequence that you're like, hey, actually, I could be a lot worse off. Look at these guys over here, and if you do a good search, like you can find organizations that really can make a huge difference with a very small amount of money. There's one organization that we work with, and it runs a school for 30,000 Australian dollars per year. And there's like 300 kids at that school. And it's just to think that your money is not going to make a difference is like, it could be if you're giving to the wrong organization. But if you're careful about the causes that you support and the specific organizations that you can support, it will make an absolutely massive, massive difference. And these smaller organizations that we work with, you can really get connected with those individuals that are running them, and they are just so appreciative of any additional funding that they can get, because they're competing with the big guys, and we only hear about the big guys. There's like 20 of them. But then there's, a few thousand of these ones at the next tier that are doing phenomenal work, but they just can't get their brand out there. And I think once you start engaging with those sorts of organizations, it totally changes the dynamic of your giving and your philanthropy, and makes it feel just so much more impactful.
Kylie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess what comes to mind is a story about a family that actually came to us with a charity I was working with a couple of years ago. And this young boy, he was actually dealing with a really severe case of mental health. He was living with depression, and he was only 11 years old, and he actually wrote a letter to take his own life. And his mum actually went to him and said, what about if we get involved in a charity and we can focus your attention now towards helping others, and let's see if that can help you on your journey to feeling better about yourself. And it was then that we met them, and he got involved in a campaign that I was running. And it was through being able to focus on others that he actually is now living an amazing life. And he talks about how the experience of giving and the experience of getting involved and helping others really helped him on his own mental health journey. And yeah, that was just a really profound experience, and something that I never thought that the campaign would be able to do for people, but it was something that's really stuck with me.
The accessibility thing is an interesting thing to me. I had a friend just recently talk to me about the fact that he developed he's in property development, so he developed this for his I think 6-year-old daughter, a contract, and the contract stipulated that if she did certain things, she would receive her inheritance, her allowance, and of the allowance there was an amount for spending, there was an amount for saving, and then there was an amount for charity or giving to church in this particular example. And I thought it was a really great way of, at the coalface, a leader of the family actually kind of imparting a culture of giving there. I just thought that was really, like, it doesn't take much financial resources. It just took a little bit of attention and time and thought, and he really structured it out. He got it to sign it. It looked like I said to him, it's a bit elaborate, mate. It looks like a legal contract. He goes, yes, she's going to learn. She's going to learn. But I really loved it. Yeah. So these are the things that I think, we should take stock of.
These practices. There was one great community organisation, and they had a Facebook post of this little girl with a jar full of coins that she was handing over and donating to them. It's just, and that's it. It's about establishing a practice and making it a habit, doing it regularly. So then you don't need to, then it's, it's part of who you are. You don't have to constantly be second guessing yourself.
Yeah, agree. So in the context of, on this theme, in the context of Seedling, when you hear it's never about money, and the theme of the podcast, what comes to mind? Because in some ways, financial resources are super important, right? To what you guys do as well. But when you hear that name, what comes to mind?
For me, I'll start off. It's really about relationships and personal growth, particularly with giving. And I think if you do it well and with intention, you can just learn so much and become so much more sophisticated in the way that you think about the world, in the way that you approach your life, but also the added benefit of giving is really about those relationships that you can build not only with individuals within a charity, for example, like it might be a charity CEO or it might be the fundraising manager that you engage with, but they also, some charities run events, and you can meet some just awesome people at these events and build networks and build relationships, and all of that leads to such a richer life, I think, if you can really meet like-minded people that have a real purpose in this world.
Mm-hmm. And Kylie?
Yeah, I think it's really, I guess, around the freedom, like being able to have the freedom to being able to give back and create an amazing impact, and realizing that money doesn't control you, that you, even when you have only a small amount, that you're creating that practice of being able to give back. I think that has been something that I've done my life and gotten so much out of. And yeah, that's really something that we're wanting to be able to share with everyone else.
Oh, I like that. I like that. It's a little bit like yoga, the practice.
Yeah.
So the idea of actually giving is in the practice of giving, not necessarily the quantum of giving.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the quantum may grow at some point in time due to fortune, something changing, circumstances changing in the future. But let's not leave it to the future to do so, because it's in flexing those giving muscles that are actually, that really, really help. I never quite thought about it that way. Yeah, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the big... Oh, no, sorry.
You go, please.
I was going to say, like, we've done a bit of research into giving, obviously, and contextually our society is moving away from religion. But a lot of these practices are very well established within all religion. They all talk about practicing giving to the poor, why you should do it. But we no longer have those really strong roots within our society. So that's why people are feeling a little bit listless. They don't really know how to do it. They don't know when to do it. They don't know how much to give. So it's about reestablishing those rules and, I guess, procedures and habits within our society without that religious basis, if that's the way that society is moving. Like, we have to bring those really great practices with us and not let them leave.
Jess, that's an awesome point. I was actually going to make it, but I wasn't sure around the actual, the evidence around, participation in religion. As a Catholic, I know I don't go to church as much as I used to, and I think, So I learned a lot of my own culture comes from early days, dad and mum taking me to church and the rest of it, and so that's just simply not there as abundant as it once was, and so in a more secular society now we're looking at institutions and companies that are founded to actually assist us in this particular space. So yeah, I appreciate that comment. Yeah. And Kylie,
Maybe just
go
to
for
add
it.
to that as well is what we also try and encourage people to think about is putting, say, around 85% of your giving sort of budget towards a structured giving. So thinking about choosing a cause, something you can wholeheartedly get behind and follow and really sort of put your roots deep for the long term. And then you can still kind of keep around 15% of that budget there for as and when friends or family maybe are doing a fundraiser and you want to really get behind them, because if you're the kind of philanthropic person that wants to be able to help people and help your community, you don't want to feel like, oh, now I have to say no to all of these things, because that might sort of not sit well with you. So that's what we're really about trying to make people move towards, is at the moment what we're seeing is most people are just sort of, like Jess mentioned, sort of giving here, there and everywhere and feeling overwhelmed with the noise and charities constantly contacting them and having to say no, where 100% of the budget is just going wherever that somebody is asking you to give to then moving towards thinking about that large majority of the money that you want to give is towards something you're really passionate about, but then you've got a little bit of money to be able to support as and when a natural disaster comes up or somebody is doing a fundraiser or something that you just feel really compelled to be able to give them 50 or $100. And that's really what we want to be able to try and help people do, so they feel confident and comfortable with a large chunk of their giving and have those the ability to be able to give to other causes when they come up as well.
Now, it's been really fortuitous that I've made the connection with you guys, and you guys have helped this podcast in partnering with KUFA, which was all about raising financial literacy standards and helping empower people with micro businesses and so on. And in areas that are, not as fortunate as our, as Australia. So that's been really amazing for us. And I'm thinking about those businesses that might be listening in, or families that are listening. Now, I know your service is pretty accessible to all. So I just wanted to sort of know a little bit about how anyone that would want to start their giving journey could access resources and information. How can I get in touch?
For sure. So Seedling Giving is a free service for people to be able to use. And so how we're able to operate is charities pay us a one-off placement fee for every successful match. Donors can also pay that fee if they prefer. But so anybody with a one-off gift, an individual or a corporate with at least $3,000 to place with a charity can come and use our service. They can just jump on our website, seedlinggiving.com.au, and then they can start the questionnaire where we start to understand more about the kind of impact they'd like to make. And then sometimes we follow up with a one-on-one interview where we can ask some more questions and understand more about the family or the business as well. But if people aren't quite at that level yet, but they'd love to continue learning more about giving, or maybe even reviewing some of the charities they're currently giving to, we have some amazing resources on our website, not only through our blogs, but the key one is we have this ebook. It's a really simple step-by-step guide in being able to work out how you find and identify high-performing charities. So if you'd like to be able to give it a go yourself, I highly recommend you to just jump on our website, download the ebook, and let us know if there's anything else that we can do to be able to help you. The whole purpose for us is to be able to get more people giving and having an amazing experience in that process. So that's really our core of what we're really trying to be able to do. So we love to be able to help people on their journey wherever they're at, whether they're just thinking about placing a $100 gift, or, family foundations who are looking to be able to explore new high-performing charities to give to, where we can help you as well. And so that's kind of a nice first place for people to be able to start.
Mm-hmm. Jess and Kylie, I don't want to be too gushy, but it's Friday, and the whole reason I started this podcast is to really give back to the community. And I think this particular episode is super, super helpful, and has been very, very enjoyable to do. So appreciate you both coming on. Keep doing your great, amazing work. And look forward to chatting to you both very soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Joe.
I hope that this one was enjoyable to listen to and there were some moments of value. If you have resonated in any way with the sentiments of this podcast, we would be delighted to direct you to our website, www.itsneveraboutmoney.com.au, for more free resources and education aimed at improving your capacity to make sound financial decisions for the benefit of your family. We wish you every success, however you define it.